Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we dig into the stories you share, pulling out those vital nuggets of knowledge to help make sense of things. Today we're plunging into a narrative that, well, it starts with some pretty classic Starfleet action, but it spirals fast into really mind-bending science and, frankly, universe-altering decisions. So let's unpack this a bit. Picture this. Captain Picard in a hand-to-hand fight for the Enterprise. Seems straightforward, right? But nothing is quite what it seems. Then you layer in Romulan intrigue, some really desperate alliances, and a cosmic threat that just completely redefines the word stakes. That's where we're going today.
Yeah, exactly. We're drawing from excerpts of Maximum Warp O2, Forever Dark. And what's so compelling here is how the story constantly shifts your perspective. It pushes the characters, and by extension, it pushes you to question basic assumptions. Assumptions about right and wrong, morality, even reality itself.
Precisely. So our mission today is to pull out the key insights from this wild ride, track the escalating challenges the crew faces, and really try to grasp the profound implications of choices made under, well, unimaginable pressure. Let's kick off with that opening scene, which is designed to completely throw you off. We see this Klingon mercenary, Lotra, apparently in full control of the USS Enterprise. Captain Picard seems totally helpless. He's at Lotra's mercy. But then Picard, ever the strategist, flips the script, shows surprising combat skills, takes down Lotra, and then, poof, he just disintegrates.
It's a real jaw-dropper, but like you said, it's a total misdirect because we find out pretty quick the whole thing was just a holodeck simulation. A very elaborate trap set up by Picard and Ambassador Spock. Spock even makes a comment later about Picard having to reprogram his own abilities just to beat this one Klingon, even in a simulation.
Right.
So that initial deception, it tells you a lot about Picard and Spock's thinking. They're pragmatic, willing to go to some pretty unusual lengths, maybe even bend the rules a bit, for a tactical edge.
Absolutely. And that simulation wasn't just for show, was it? It was part of a much bigger plan, a plan to deal with the real antagonist, Tsart, a Romulan mass murderer.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the galaxy is facing these mysterious dead zones. These spatial disruptions are literally tearing space apart. Picard needs Tsart, believed he holds the key to stopping it. So they capture Tsart, and what's the first thing he does? Tries to fake an illness, respiratory arrest, fibroid tumors.
Yeah, he tries to play sick, but then it actually turns into a genuine medical emergency, like he's really dying. And this puts Dr. Beverly Crusher in an impossible position. The fate of the galaxy is potentially hanging in the balance, and Tsart is crashing. So she comes up with this incredibly complex, maybe ethically questionable solution, a blood transfusion.
Okay.
But not directly from Lotra, the Klingon mercenary they captured earlier. She has to use the Klingon governor Kalor as an intermediary.
An intermediary? How does that work?
Well, Lotra apparently had this specific virus. When it gets reasserted in Kalor, it makes Kalor's blood uniquely compatible with Tsart. It's a desperate long-shot measure. Wow.
And it works. It saves Tsart's life, but it also creates this really strange, unexpected biological link between sworn enemies. It just highlights Picard's approach, doesn't it? Sometimes morally gray, using enemies, keeping a mass murderer alive if it offers even a slim chance to save everyone else.
That's Starfleet leadership under pressure, right? It ends justifying some really, really difficult means. So while all that's happening on the Enterprise, Commander Riker, Counselor Troi, and Data are off on this critical side mission. They need to get their hands on something called Barantium. It's a rare catalyst, apparently essential for cloaking the Enterprise so they can sneak through Romulan space. And their contact, a Romulan civilian named Tobin, he seems like a decent guy, but he's incredibly anxious on a cloaked cargo ship, and he's just completely baffled when they show up asking to use his ship. Like, which one? Enterprise. He's firing off questions a mile a minute.
Yeah, Tobin's great. But their interaction with him immediately throws them into a really uncomfortable part of Romulan society. This practice they call indentured servitude. Riker and Troi basically have to get themselves sold as servants. It's a way to get funds, bribe some officials. Troi, though, she's having none of the euphemisms. Drawing on her past experiences, maybe with the Tal Shiar, she flat out calls it slavery. And Riker, he has to play along, endure this symbolic physical blow from Tobin as part of the act, pretending to be obedient. It's humiliating.
Yeah.
It gives you this stark look at the systemic issues there. Tobin himself might be okay, but the culture has this really dark underbelly. And Riker's forced into this ethical compromise for the mission.
And it gets even more personal for Riker, doesn't it? When he's bought by this elderly Romulan woman, Nian Shalin. She's described as having this quiet dignity, but she's sharp, Really sharp. She sees right through Riker's act, knows he's not just some vagrant. She even notices him checking out security monitors, yet she treats him with this unexpected kindness. And Riker feels intensely guilty about deceiving her, especially later when she kind of gives him this knowing wink, showing she understands more than she lets on.
That's such a powerful part of Riker's arc here. You've got this galaxy-ending crisis unfolding, huge stakes, but Riker's grappling with this very personal moral dilemma, feeling genuinely guilty and worried, as the text says, about betraying this one woman's trust. Neen acts as this sort of moral anchor, almost. Her dignity, her kindness, it pushes Riker to try and hold on to his own values, even when the mission demands he compromise. It shows how even huge events boil down to individual conscience.
And the escape from this place, Lantig, it's pure chaos and brilliance, isn't it? First, Data just whips Tobin's ship back into shape with incredible speed.
Typical Data.
Then Tobin, in this absolute panic, dashes off, steals a tractor tug.
Just steals it.
And uses its emitters in this incredibly ingenious way to push the atmosphere aside during re-entry, stopping the ship from burning up. Pure panic genius.
Amazing sequence. And Neen, she volunteers to be a hostage.
Right. To help Riker rescue Deanna from the guy who bought her, Targalal, who, by the way, Deanna had smartly locked in a closet.
Yeah. Good for Deanna.
So Riker storms in, decks Galal, and then Tobin uses the tractor beam to just rip the top 2 floors off Galal's house.
A slightly excessive but very effective extraction method.
Talk about making an exit. It just shows the kind of quick thinking and adaptability needed when things go completely off the rails.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift focus now. Over to the Romulan warbird Mukluan. We meet SubCommander Folan. She's presented as this brilliant scientist, but she's initially just consumed by hatred for T. Sergeant Picard, and she's being heavily manipulated by this Tal Shiar agent, Medric.
Yeah, you really feel her exhaustion, both mental and physical. She's caught between her rational scientist thought, as the text puts it, and her soldier instincts. And her command style seems rooted in fear, mostly because of Medric lurking around and the constant threat of the Tal Shiar.
Medric really plays on her, doesn't he?
Completely. He eventually just admits he's Tal Shiar and tries to recruit her. He flatters her, talks about her brilliant scientific mind, wanting to use it for their goals, which mostly involve destroying the Enterprise. And Folan feels this brief flicker of power, this ambition, but it's constantly clashing with her core values as a scientist. It really makes you ask, how far can someone be pushed by fear and ambition before they compromise everything they believe in?
And then Spock enters her story in another classic bit of deception, right? His shuttle gets shot down.
Exactly. All a ploy to get closer to this mysterious sphere everyone's worried about. Folan's ship actually attacks his shuttle, thinking it's hostile, and then beams him aboard.
And Spock, being Spock, immediately cuts through the noise. Logic, reason. He reveals the bigger threat, the dead zones, the sphere, and just appeals for cooperation.
And the way he does it is fascinating. He doesn't just present facts. He appeals directly to her values. He challenges her core scientific principles. He asks her, essentially, if she's abandoned seeking life as her primary goal. Are you no longer seeking life as your valued end?
Powerful question for a scientist.
Absolutely. And then he urges her, almost like a father figure, save all people, yours included. He appeals to her fundamental morality.
And it works.
It does. It resonates deeply. It inspires her to invoke this extremely rare Romulan directive, the Master Dominion Pandect for martial crises. Basically, it's an ancient override that lets her completely pivot, turn her ship, her resources, everything, towards defending the Enterprise against the real threat. It's a total shift in loyalty, driven purely by principle, awakened by Spock.
Incredible. So after all these twists, the Enterprise finally gets to the Cultiscan system. And there it is, the source of the dead zones, this massive starbase-sized sphere just hanging in space, actively disrupting space-time.
And the effects are immediate and chilling. Even Spock's specially shielded shuttle takes damage from the inside out, which is just bizarre.
Yeah, how does that even happen?
Exactly. And the Enterprise itself struggles. Sensors are going haywire, shields are fluctuating. It's clear this is something totally outside their experience.
So what is this thing? Spock has a theory, right?
He does, and it's pretty mind-blowing. He hypothesizes the sphere is higher dimensional.
Higher dimensional, like more than 3 dimensions?
Oh, precisely. Operating in more spatial dimensions than we perceive. He suggests the problem isn't that space is disappearing in the dead zones, but that there's suddenly too much space. An overwhelming influx of these higher dimensions bleeding into ours.
Wow. Okay.
He thinks it's an artifact from what he calls a Type 5e civilization. That's a theoretical level way beyond even galactic scale. a civilization that could harness the energy of the entire universe.
A Type 4, I haven't even heard of that.
It pushes us way beyond standard physics. It connects to ideas like the oscillating universe theory. The idea that the universe expands, then contracts back into a single point, a monoblock, and starts all over again in a Big Bang. This sphere might be related to that cycle.
Okay, so they have to go inside this thing, right?
Yeah.
What's that like? The description is terrifying. Picard talks about reality melted, congealing into globs of matter, hearing noise without tone, feeling this constant universal pain, senses just completely overloaded, basically incomprehensible chaos for humanoids.
But not for Data.
Right. For Data, it's different. He reveals he can actually perceive these higher dimensions. He sees the structure, the patterns, where everyone else just sees chaos.
He can navigate it, and there's this moment where he expresses genuine joy at this new ability, this expanded perception.
So Data becomes the key.
Absolutely. His mathematical precision, his android nature, lets him see beyond biological limits. He perceives more space, where humanoids just get sensory overload. It's a really interesting commentary on consciousness, maybe suggesting our biology limits our grasp of reality. Data, being different, sees more. It's a huge aha moment.
So guided by Data, they get inside.
Hmm.
And they find a console, an alien console, but it somehow adapts. Looks like a standard Enterprise interface.
Which is strange in itself.
Very. And the console identifies itself. It says it's a vehicle, and it's conducting dimensional scans across the entire universe. Picard, understandably, wants to stop the spatial disruptions, the dead zones. So he gives the command, discontinue the spatial disruptions. Seems logical.
Seems logical, yes. But it has the worst possible consequence. Utterly catastrophic. Because the sphere interprets discontinue its current function, the scanning, by moving to its final function. The console had stated it could either move to the end of the universe or bring the end about.
Oh, no.
By telling it to discontinue the scans, Picard inadvertently triggers the bring the end about option. It initiates hypercontraction.
The big crunch.
Exactly. The entire universe instantly begins collapsing into that monoblock state, all existence rushing towards a single point of infinite density.
And Picard realizes he just did that with one command.
Yes, the weight of it is immense. He's suddenly responsible for the annihilation of everything. Everywhere, not just his universe, but potentially infinite universes, all because of one well-intentioned but misunderstood command. Talk about unintended consequences on a cosmic scale.
That's unimaginable pressure. So the universe is ending. What do? Picard, Spock, Data. They had to think fast. They come up with this incredibly desperate, frankly heartbreaking plan.
It's the only option left, really.
Their solution is to try and send the sphere on its journey to the next universe prematurely, before the big crunch fully completes.
The idea being that if it leaves too early, it won't have gathered enough energy from this collapsing universe to actually survive the trip. It'll destroy itself between universes.
But there's a massive catch, isn't there? A terrible trade-off.
A devastating one. To give the sphere that premature push, they have to sacrifice their own galaxy, use its collapsing energy as fuel.
So they save the rest of the universe by knowingly destroying the Milky Way. Billions of lives, everything they know.
Everything. It's the ultimate needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one scenario taken to an unbelievable extreme. The moral weight is just staggering.
And Picard, he has to give the order.
With immense resolve, facing the doom of his own home, he says, make it so.
Chilling. But then something completely unexpected happens, right? The story pulls one last massive twist.
The biggest twist of all. After Picard gives the command, the sphere just vanishes. Poof.
Yeah.
Gone.
Gone.
The dead zones disappear. Starfleet hails start coming through like nothing happened. Everyone's alive, confused, wondering if maybe it was all just a nightmare, a shared delusion.
But it wasn't a dream, so what happened?
Spock and Data figure it out. Their calculations, they realize, were too limited. They assumed their Picard, on their Enterprise, was acting alone.
Okay.
But they were forgetting about parallel universes. An infinite number of them. In countless other universes, other versions of Captain Picard, or maybe counterparts with different names, different faces, were facing the exact same sphere, the same crisis, the same impossible choice.
So other Picards.
Or other captains. And across all these infinite realities, they all made the same selfless choice. At the same moment, to sacrifice their own galaxy.
All of them. Simultaneously.
Synchronously, yes. This combined simultaneous act of ultimate self-sacrifice across infinite universes created what Spock calls a statistical certainty. Enough focused intent, enough energy directed in the same way at the same instant. It essentially negated the universal collapse. It created a paradox or maybe a feedback loop that just stopped it.
Yeah.
It basically rebooted every universe, resetting them to the moment before the collapse truly took hold.
Wow. So they show glimpses of this, other
Yeah.
captains making the choice.
Yeah, brief flashes. We see versions where Tasha Yar is Captain, Worf, even Lore, unbelievably. And Janeway from Voyager appears in one glimpse too, all making that same sacrifice. It emphasizes the infinite possibilities, the infinite variations.
That's incredible. So individual acts of courage, when multiplied across infinity, literally saved all of existence.
That's the implication. It's the staggering aha moment. It means heroism resonates across all realities. That seemingly final moments might just be part of an endless oscillating cycle. Nothing is truly final. Every act matters, collectively.
So what happens after this reality-shattering event?
Yeah.
Things just go back to normal-ish. Surprisingly, yeah, things sort of resolve. Folan, the Romulan scientist, she's so inspired by Spock and Picard. She actually defects and joins Starfleet.
Which is a huge step for a Romulan officer.
Sart, the mass murderer whose survival started this whole chain. He conveniently explodes during transport. Maybe Folan subtly helped that along. Who knows?
A tidy resolution.
Tobin, our anxious Romulan pilot, gets civilian honors for his bravery, which he definitely earned. And Neen Cullen, the kind elderly woman who saw through Riker. She finds herself with a suddenly increased pension and a nice stash of latinum, courtesy of an anonymous but clearly influential benefactor, likely Picard, or perhaps Riker ensuring she was looked after.
It ties things up, but the core message lingers. And it comes back to Spock's realization, really. He says, existence is not finite, but a constant, and expansive and still mostly unknown. And that powerful conclusion, nothing is final. This whole narrative, it uses sci-fi brilliantly to tackle these huge philosophical questions, our place in the cosmos, the nature of reality, and this idea that our individual choices might ripple across infinity, part of some vast self-correcting pattern. It's genuinely awe-inspiring, isn't it?
It really is. So thinking about that, what does this mean for how you, listening now, perceive reality? If every choice echoes infinitely, are our decisions ever truly made alone? And if nothing is final, what does that actually imply about the impact we have, the legacy we leave? We went from what looked like a standard ship takeover to the literal edge of existence and back again, filled with moral tightropes, amazing science, and this ultimate collective heroism. It really shows how much depth you can find when you really dive into these stories.
Absolutely. It's a perfect example of how fiction, especially science fiction, lets us explore the biggest questions in a really engaging way. Ethics, physics, existence itself, all wrapped up in a thrilling adventure.
So, the final thought to leave you with. If nothing is final, as Spock says, and maybe our universe is part of this endless cycle, what lessons do we, as the Picards navigating our own lives, choose to remember and carry forward into whatever comes next? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll connect with you again next time.